in Harmony Nature. This is being pre-taped on the 1st of August 1989. Today I have a very interesting guest. He's a nature photographer, Gilbert van Ryckevorsel.
That's fine.
And he's the owner of Aquamarine Photography. And he originally came here from Holland, and he used to be a brewmaster. But he graduated into underwater photography and became very respected and recognized in Canada. Because of the importance of the show, I will not take any more time in introduction. We'll be talking about the Grand Lake, or in other words, Shubenacadie Lake, and the Shubenacadie River. So please stay tuned to the video and the background lecture.
Thank you very much, Shalom, for your kind introduction. I am doing here a presentation for our audience on the lake system that we are so familiar with, which is close by the metro area, Grand Lake, Shubenacadie River. The location that we are looking at here, where the plane was and where these fish are right below, is near Waverley. Those are anadromous fish, alewives or Gasparo, fish that come in by the hundred thousands or maybe by the millions into the Shubenacadie River system and stay for maybe 3 months or 2 or 3 months in the system, spawn and return back to sea. This is one of several anadromous fish species that are in the lake system. We have the shad, which is a similar fish. It's larger. Then we have other fish that we will come to. Right here we have a fish that wasn't a native Nova Scotian fish, but has been populated and is now throughout the Grand Lake system, Shubenacadie River. It's the smallmouth bass. This particular fish is guarding his spawning site, and he just went after another perch. He is very territorial in defending his nesting site. It is a fish that has become very popular, very dominant in this system, because it's a very successful little predator that feeds mostly on the juvenile anadromous fish. I have to say anadromous fish because they are ocean fish that spawn in the freshwater and return to the ocean, versus freshwater fish that are residents, and the smallmouth bass is a resident. It's only so successful because it benefits from the tremendous amount of juvenile anadromous fish. The smallmouth bass, when you meet him as a diver, is totally unafraid of you. He'll swim right up to your mask and look at your eyes because they're moving, or you have something in your fingers and he'll eat it from it. They're very curious and very very photogenic, therefore. Here you're seeing when these large numbers of anadromous fish are coming into the river, you have also a certain mortality, and there you see the function in the life cycle of species that are in the river. Here we have a dead Gasparo, which is being fed on by freshwater eels and by white perch, that is another well-known fish in the river. In the background you see the schooling Gasparo. Actually those fish are circulating there because they are kind of interested in what I am, because they are not familiar with a diver, and it's not something that is in their reaction pattern that tells them bad or good. So as long as you are quiet and peaceful, they will gradually become used to you, and you can come real close up, and you can be almost right in amongst them.
Gilbert, I'm just amazed that we have this kind of sea life right in Halifax County in Grand Lake.
Well, this is the interesting thing. This beautiful natural system, which is this lake system, and the watershed area of it is only partially habitated, and on the other side of the lake, it's still mostly wilderness. I would term it like that. And most people like this area particularly for that reason, because it is so untouched, and yet it is so close to the metro area. And this is where we have a situation where I'm leading into. It's a situation where we are having effects of habitation of the cottages and of the villages that are in this system that are affecting the quality of the system. And I will now comment on the species that you see here, and just pick up on this idea again as it comes up in our video. This is a painted turtle. It's one of 4 species of turtles that we have in Nova Scotia, 3 of which are in the Grand Lake area. It's a small character, very docile, very nice little creature that most people are quite well familiar with. They often sit on sticks that just stick out of the water, and actually I saw him sitting there from a distance, and I dove under, and of course the little critter was not aware of my approach until I was right on top of him, and then I could just pick him up and let him go in front of me, and was able to film him. And while I was doing that, there were other onlookers, which is this quite large smallmouth bass. That is the dominant fish of that cove in the Wellington area. And the fish is both interested in me, but also in a little turtle. And the turtle is leading us through an underwater scene, which has some significance also. First, there are dead trees or remnants of lumber business that happened there over the last 150, maybe 200 years, because wood deteriorates in water very slowly, and you will find in amongst these remnants also a bottle, for example. This is an old bottle which is grown over by freshwater sponge, and it's sort of an interesting thing. I didn't take the bottle. I was, as a photographer, more interested in showing the growth on it, you see. But here we are following our little turtle in this part of the lake, which is fairly shallow. It's about from right up the surface going down to maybe 15 feet. And then you can go into throws in the lake, which are rather deep, 100 to 150 feet. Depth are recorded in Grand Lake. In those depths, there will be very little, there will be no light. It will be pitch dark. There will be very little life. The only species that you may find there are sturgeon. Not that I know, I have not seen any sturgeon in this river, but I have seen them in other rivers that are running out in the Fundy, and photographed them there. But they must be there, and this is just a little secret that hasn't been discovered yet.
For the sake of listeners, which part of Grand Lake is it? Because Grand Lake is a very large lake.
That's right. This is close to, there are 2 brooks that are running out from Lake Fletcher into Grand Lake.
Yes.
And that area where there was a fish hatchery.
That's right.
And close to that fish hatchery, where is it that these pictures were taken?
So it's very close to that new locks they might recreate, as you know.
That's right.
At the bottom of Grand Lake.
The
Which
historic.
the province is considering to reactivate that lock.
Yeah,
Yeah.
in the Shubenacadie Canal
That's right.
system that interconnected all these lakes and.
That's Wellington, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
That's fascinating.
Now, what you are seeing, this little turtle, you see this greenish clouds there. That is actually algae, and it's a new phenomenon, which which is new in the size that it has in its proliferating as a proliferating phenomenon, which is related to domestic chemicals that are coming into the lake from all the habitations around the lake, and it's creating eutrophication or algae bloom. Yeah. The little amphibian turtle is not affected by it because he takes air just like me, holds it on and stays underwater for 15 or 20 minutes and then comes up again. But for fish to go into that into those algae would be to kill. They would kill themselves that way because their gills would get clogged up. And here, this little the little turtle is getting into the habitat where he breeds in between the lily pads, and that's where you where they live their secret life, or they don't have any predators that I know of. But, they are very shy, and it's just the critter doesn't know what to do really when a diver is there. And of course I'm gentle with them, and this is what you have to be when you're doing nature photography. This is great fun to be in the habitat and observe these creatures, and this is one of the things that I think is very important for the people around the lake to become more than before interested in the wildlife that there is. Yeah. There have been some inventories made by people from the Department of Fisheries and Oceans of all the wildlife that lives in these systems, and it's important because we are going to have to make these inventories again and again and see how the wildlife is affected by a slight change that is ongoing because of the increasing habitation of man in this area.
With a little bit of knowledge I have, Gilbert, and looking at all the vegetation there,
yeah.
I can definitely say that it's mainly the pollution of on-site sewage disposal systems being so close to the lakefront, because there are quite a few cottages, and these were built in the times that they didn't have the same kind of sophistication they have now. Yeah. And I definitely say this is the result of, I would say, either malfunction or short-circuiting between the disposal beds and the lake.
That's right. It's nutrients, mostly phosphates and nitrates that are coming into the water column.
That's right.
That are creating this algae bloom.
That's right.
You know, but there are also other chemicals in the water, because I see from having dived in this river over many years now, nearly 20 years, there is a decline in fish, and there is a disease that you see with the fish. This sort of thing that you see here is more a physical pollution. It's just the river has been used as a dump site, just as a land dump site. The river has been used as such, and this is the scene in areas that are closer to habitation. Virtually anything you can find there, and it has been collecting ever since man was on the river. So there is artifacts, and there is junk of the present time, and everything in between that you can find there. Truck tires and car tires are very prominently, even the more books that would educate a man did not really educate the man who owned that because he threw them in the river.
Yeah. It's absolutely disgusting how people treat their water courses, don't they?
Yeah, it is amazing. It is just a habit that people don't think about. If you talk to them about it, then they say, gee, you're right. But it's just something that they have never been criticized about, and so they are not aware of doing something wrong there. You know, some of those people. But you find all kinds of things there. Some of it is deliberate, some of it is accidental, and various other ways of things that are man-made that end up in a natural environment and create a pollution. You see, pollution in many different forms. Plastics, for example, which are not per se a problem in this case, are a big problem in salt water.
Gilbert, with all this garbage, this is still the lake, or is it the Shubenacadie River? Which one?
This is the Shubenacadie River.
I see.
That we are looking at here.
Not the Grand Lake.
No, this is where this is near Enfield Bridge. This is actually a site where about 2 weeks ago a group of volunteers organized by a resident of Grand Lake, Mr. Brad Hodgkins, and quite a few other people, but mostly Brad Hodgkins was the organizer of this cleanup event. River cleanup, which was done, and 70 people came to this call and became involved in a day's work to clean up a significant stretch of the river. This is a container, a plastic container, which ended up on the river bottom, which I found there before the cleanup site. And actually, when we went into the cleanup, which you will see a little later on, we used that particular container as a vessel in which we stored some of the junk and brought it away on to sites where then other boats took it over to bring it to the dump site.
How deep would the river be in this, roughly?
The river was there about 4, 5, 6 feet. There are a few holes which are 15 feet or so. But in general, this river is about 5, 6 feet. You see here the sucker carp that were with the junk. It's interesting to see how wildlife reacts and how is it affected by a man-made condition. Now this is a man-made condition whereby, again, algae proliferates in this term eutrophication. There are just huge banks of this green, very fine, fibrous material. You put your hand in it, you can't even feel it, but it smothers everything.
I understand there are some treatment plants in Hants County, I would say, which discharge not properly treated effluent into the river. Public health engineers were telling me that.
I see. Yeah. I'm happy to hear that, of course. Yes. But we are looking at a problem here that has been developing over some time, and it is good to hear that that the first actions are instituted to prevent further proliferation of this problem. Because if this is not put to a stop, then this is what you see here. The plants are being clogged up in the river. They are bent down by the current because of the resistance that the strands of algae create on them. And the plants cannot assimilate anymore with the sun and suffocate and die. And large beds of lily pads and other plants, mostly lily pads actually, have been smothered and have disappeared since I was diving in that location. Here you see the remnants of a lily pad field from last year, which never grew up again. It just the ghosts of a site.
How tall are the lily pads usually?
They can grow up to from the surface down. They can be 10 feet high.
I see.
Yeah. It's this is just a specter of what may be in store if nothing were done to prevent this.
See, on this show we have done numerous programs on limnology, which is the study of freshwater lakes and rivers.
Yes.
This is the first time we've done a show which is so obvious in pictures, which most people can relate to. And you should be really congratulated for this.
Well, thank you very much, Shalom.
Just like that person, the French photographer. What was his name?
Jacques Cousteau.
Yeah, Cousteau.
That's right. Yeah. Now, this gentleman is a resident who is commenting on this event on the river.
Is that Brad Hodgins?
No, this is not Brad Hodgins. This is a man who lives close by the river there, and just one of the people that volunteered in this effort. And this is Enfield Bridge, actually, and there were 4 teams of people, in total some 70 people. And here I am in the water with a man from Halifax. His name is Paul Brunel, and he is an amateur naturalist. His special interest is insects, and he is a designer, a graphic designer, and he draws, for example, dragonflies, and he knows there are 7 or 8 species of dragonflies in that particular area, so he comes there a lot, and he is very concerned about the condition of the river, and he is participating in this event. That is from Halifax, you know.
And he doesn't live in the area.
Yeah. That's right, and so it is a great positive experience to meet people of naturalistic and interest and all various interests that comes to this location, that participated and found it great fun to participate in this cleanup work because it's the purpose of cleaning up something that means something to them. You see, this all kinds of things that you find in there. Again, there was a shovel. There are pieces of clothing that you will see here. There was a truck that turned over on the Trans-Canada, and a whole load of items went into the river. But it's accidental, it's deliberate, it's various ways. It's the environment that has to cope with this type of human interference, you know. So the junk that you saw on the bottom of the river in previous shots is being cleaned up here by these volunteers, and there you see the container that first was underwater. We brought it up, we made it into a floating barge to bring the stuff out with.
How would you, while we are watching this, how would you clean a lake though, like Grand Lake, which is pretty deep? I understand it's as much as, 200 feet deep at places? Yeah,
well, Grand Lake is not experiencing a problem like this. There may be a few locations where you have physical junk in locations that can be fairly easily cleaned up. The problem with Grand Lake is the chemistry that comes into the water. Yeah. And this is where people are going to have to make a choice. And the choice will be not to simply not to use some of these chemicals that we have no technology for to get rid of in the system. It's the phosphates and nitrates that are creating a big problem in the river.
As you know, in the few minutes we have left, there are quite a few influential people who either live or have cottages or land on Grand Lake. Yeah. One of them is the warden of the county of Halifax. The other one is Honorable Ken Stretch, which is the Minister of Small Business Development.
Yes.
And I'm hoping that these people will show leadership in preserving the lake and for the future generations.
It's very necessary that all people are going to be involved in watching what they are doing to the environment. I think that we all are violating in one or other way, even if we are guarded in one way, we are violating in another way. It's very difficult to get rid of some chemicals because we have no ways of really getting rid of it. These are some of the techniques that will have to come in place to get rid of certain chemicals that we have no legal way of getting rid of.
I can see why, Gilbert, you are very respected, and I understand that your pictures have been published in the National Geographic, International Wildlife Magazine, Natural History, Equinox, Canadian Geographical Magazine, Outdoor Canada, Atlantic Salmon Journal, Trout Unlimited, and also understand that various federal and provincial agencies like Environment Canada and Provincial Fisheries and Tourism, and in the U.S. the Fish and Wildlife Service has been using your services. So you've come a long way since you were a brewmaster. And so in the half a minute that's left, I thank very much Gilbert Ryckevorsel for having appeared on our show. I thank volunteers Ed Driscoll and Danny Ledley of Shaw Cable for having produced this very self-explanatory show, which hopefully will wake up people to the real serious problem which people like Dr. Suzuki have been speaking for about 20 years. And I also thank the boss here, Heather McCauley, for having directed the show.